So I wanted to take a few minutes with this video to talk about 3 interesting PlayStation 5 stories, and if you could hit that like button on the video, thank you to those that do it, and as always, it's very much appreciated. Now, the stories I wanted to cover for today's video includes this new PlayStation 5 headset, Mark Cerny talking about ray tracing in it being the new era of gaming, and PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility overperformed and had to be dialed down. First, yes or no, do you want PlayStation 5 only titles? Since we're talking about backwards compatibility in this video, which involves cross-gen titles, do you mind that games are coming to PlayStation 4 as well, like God of War, Ragnarok, Horizon 2, Forbidden West, and GT7, or do you want PlayStation 5 only titles to start coming? I personally want next-gen only PlayStation 5 titles at this point, like Ratchet and Clank. No more cross-gen games, but of course, that's just me. So comment below, yes or no, do you want PlayStation 5 only titles, or do you not care? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, diving into the first story of the video, this new PlayStation 5 headset. Reading from The Verge, after releasing a fleet of gaming products geared toward Xbox and PC, Razer is finally giving the PlayStation 5 a little love with 2 new wireless Kaira wireless headsets, the $99 Kaira and the $199 Kaira Pro. They aren't carbon copies of the Xbox versions either. Razer made a color palette swap to a white and black colorway, and there's leatherlet covering the ear cups as opposed to a piece of breathable mesh fabric. But that's not all. The more expensive Kaira Pro is the only one of the 2 models to have HyperSense haptics, which will deliver jolts of vibration to make your games and other content more immersive. Razer recently announced that this feature is coming to the new and similarly priced Kraken V3 Pro that is also made to support PlayStation consoles in addition to PC and the Nintendo Switch dock. I've yet to experience the HyperSense haptics myself, but it could make for an alluring feature stacked on Sony's 3D audio tech on the PlayStation 5. So I currently own the Pulse 3D wireless headset, as probably most of you do, by Sony, but hearing about this HyperSense haptics feature on this headset has me tempted to dive in and check it out. This sounds like something, Sony would have made for their own headset, considering they're using something similar to this for PlayStation VR 2 with haptics on the headset itself. I'll wait until the reviews, of course, come out for it and hear what people have to say about the haptics on there, but if they're good and add to the level of immersion, I might be tempted to pick them up. Now, diving into the second story of the video, ray tracing is the new era of gaming. So one of the biggest things outside of something like the SSD that has come out of this generation with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series consoles is ray tracing. Most games that include it adds more vibrancy to the world. You wouldn't think reflections would impact as much, but probably the first time I was really impressed with ray tracing was with the Microsoft Minecraft video. If ever anyone remembers it from a year or 2 ago, they showcased Minecraft running without ray tracing and then flipped on ray tracing, and you saw the big difference between the two. The world prior to ray tracing being put on was flat, but with ray tracing on, the world felt more alive and it had more depth. Ray tracing in something like Spider-Man Miles Morales or Spider-Man Remastered on the PlayStation 5 is also something amazing. The city lights, the reflections, it elevates that open world. Mark Cerny, the architect behind the PlayStation 5, pretty much stated that ray tracing is the new era of gaming. He stated this in his recent video with Wired Magazine.
If you look at the 50-year history of games, it splits pretty neatly into 2 eras. The first era, Pac-Man, Sonic the Hedgehog, is games that are built entirely out of flat components. The second era, Crash Bandicoot, Uncharted, these are games built out of 3D triangles with effects on them. Thanks to ray tracing, we're now entering a third era, and the visuals have a capacity to be like nothing we've ever seen before. Ray tracing is radically different technology. It's pure computation. There's a database in RAM that contains a description of the video game world, mostly triangles and boxes, and then there's support in the GPU hardware for seeing if a line intersects that geometry. If the hardware is fast enough, that unlocks new approaches to lighting and shadows and reflections. The catch is, to use this as a developer, you have to build a whole new real-time graphics pipeline. Ray tracing was not one of the key features that the developers asked for, mostly I think because they had difficulty believing they'd have enough ray tracing performance to do anything interesting with it. You can view it as a trade-off. How much effort does it take to adopt that new rendering pipeline versus how much difference does it make visually to what the player is experiencing? Developers immediately dug into the new feature set, and at our very first PlayStation 5 game showcase, we had 6 titles that were using ray tracing. Ray tracing can also be used for shadows. In the real world, the edges of shadows are not perfectly crisp because the light that casts those shadows isn't a point. The light source itself has a size to it. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War uses ray tracing and a lot of additional mathematics to create very realistic looking shadows with the proper softness.
So according to Mark Cerny, he views the history of gaming as the flat era, the first era, the 3D era, the second era, and now we have the ray tracing era, which is the third era. And I can get what he's saying because, as I said earlier, ray tracing makes worlds more vibrant and less flat. It adds more depth, even in a game like Minecraft. But you guys let me know if you agree that ray tracing is the new era of gaming or not. Let me know down in the comments below. Now, diving into the third story of the video, overperforming backwards compatibility. So this story also comes from the recent Mark Cerny Wired video discussion in regards to the PlayStation 5. He took a moment on that video to talk specifically about backwards compatibility and how in their test, the power of the PlayStation 5 made a game overperform when it accessed the capabilities of the console, meaning its frames per second went overboard that they had to manually dial down the level of performance the game got. He stated this: backwards compatibility is difficult because there are hundreds of essential GPU features in PlayStation 4 that the developers rely on, and for their games to run flawlessly on PlayStation 5, each of those features need to be properly included. We also need to insulate the games from the new PlayStation 5 capabilities. There was a case early on where we ran a multi-million selling PlayStation 4 game on PlayStation 5 and found out that the player character was suddenly just running too fast. What was happening was the power of the PlayStation 5 was translating into higher frame rate and it broke gameplay. So to fix that bug, we had to put in knobs that would allow us to dial in just how much performance that game could handle. So this was very interesting to hear from me because for some time before Warzone, which is a PlayStation 4 title, when it got 120 frames per second support, we thought that the tools available for the PlayStation 5 didn't allow PlayStation 4 games to tap into something like higher frames. Yes, we had games that got patched to run at 60, but listening to how Mark Cerny talks about this, it sounds like the PlayStation 4 title he was talking about was running past 60 frames per second for it to be broken. If there is a dial or knob, why aren't we seeing more backwards compatible titles running at 120 frames per second compared to the Series X? I wonder if it's the part about the game breaking if it runs at higher than intended frame rate. Probably the Xbox tools have some way to manage that. Either way, it was interesting to listen to, but you guys let me know if you care about games running at 120 frames per second or not. Let me know down in the comments below, and if you guys did enjoy this video, please hit that like button as it always helps, and subscribe if you're new. I got new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and now I'll check you guys out on the next one. And welcome back to the after show. This is the part of the video where we have a little fun down in the comments below. If you're old, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. For today's thing, what I want you guys to do is to body, obliterate, destroy, and overall harass the comment section with the power of PlayStation. Obviously, this is in reference to that game overperforming when it accessed the capabilities of the PlayStation 5. If you want more games to run at higher frames, destroy the comment section with the power of PlayStation. I'll definitely heart those comments like I always do because I appreciate everybody who stays at the end of my videos. And now I'll check you guys out on the next one.